last week in our Craft Cocktail Club Facebook group, we made a Valentine's Day cocktail on Valentine's Day. But of course, we didn't want to keep it a secret, so today we're going to share it with you. This one is called Campy Beet, and it's a delicious take on a basic bourbon sour, where we're using beetroot powder,
Yep.
a little bit of black pepper, and there might be a little bit of tingly Szechuan goodness in there as well.
Yummy. So today we're going to be making kind of a simple twist on a bourbon sour, a whiskey sour. So we have beet juice, and I've made a simple syrup out of it with a little bit of black pepper in there as well. So you got a little bit of heat going on there. Beets and black pepper are really, really good together. Lemon juice, bourbon, and that's basically the framework of the sour. Now, I think, like I said, beets and pepper really go well together. So we're going to use this really fun product we got a couple of months ago, right?
Mm-hmm. This was a sample. Forgive me, I don't remember. One of our group members, I believe, works for this brand. Mm-hmm. So hopefully she'll stop in and say hi. But I don't recall her name. You'll have to forgive me. But I will say, this stuff is good.
So this is a buzz button liqueur.
That's the same thing as Szechuan?
Like Szechuan peppercorn.
Yeah.
So you get that like crazy Szechuan tingle on your tongue.
Good stuff.
And it's 50% alcohol. So this thing has a kick. So we're going to play around with this, but this with the beets and the black pepper is really, really good together. And then some egg whites. And so that's kind of the whole process.
All right. So
yeah.
I was just going to ask you how you made your syrup. And I think you were about to tell me how you made your syrup.
Perfect timing. So basically I just started with a simple syrup. I think it was like a quarter cup of water, quarter cup of sugar, and added about a half a teaspoon of the beetroot powder to it.
That little?
A little bit goes a long
Wow.
ways. My kit, the sink looks like a murder scene.
I haven't seen it yet. I'll report back.
But it comes out with this beautiful, beautiful color of simple syrup. Now the problem with using the beet powder, as I found, is that it clumps up, as you heard earlier.
Yeah, I was wondering why I shook this and it made like a thunking sound. I don't know if you can hear that. But yeah, definitely some serious clumps in this guy. Yeah,
so there's a couple ways to kind of alleviate that, because when you put it in simple syrup, it doesn't fully dissolve. So you get this like clumpy mess, and you got to break it down, and it kind of sucks, I'll be honest with you.
Well, I don't really think of beet as a thing to dissolve in syrup. I mean,
right.
It's not really like something that's dissolvable in my experience.
Right, so what I actually did, two things you could do. First one is use a fine mesh strainer. Actually, would you mind grabbing one out of there?
You got it.
So use it basically like a sieve, and you just kind of aerate it, break up some of the clumps, and go from there.
Can't find a stainless one, so we're going copper.
Copper! So yeah, this kind of takes away all the clumps. You can use a spoon to kind of break them all apart, and then it makes your simple syrups a lot easier. We're actually going to use this in a second as well.
And if you were going to do this in volume, I mean, obviously you're not going to want to do this one at a time if you're doing this in large quantities for a bar program. Chris was telling me earlier that the solution for that is a chinois.
Chinois with a little bit of cheesecloth.
Which I like to call it chinois.
Right, so yeah, you can kind of set it up, walk away, get your ice, get everything else ready for your station, and kind of go from there. The other thing is, the other benefit or other tip we have for you is whenever I have syrups like this that have a little bit of residue, because it was a little bit chalky, it never fully broke down, what I would recommend is if you have one of these bad boys, for coffee, it's called an AeroPress. This makes getting those little tiny particles like a breeze. It's pretty fantastic. So all you would do with this is, this is where the filter goes. You add the filter to it, get a little bit moist, a little bit wet.
Oh, now you've done it.
I know, I broke it! And then just add it together, and then this thing comes apart, and you just pour the simple syrup in here and squeeze. And this builds a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to give it a really good push.
It doesn't feel like it's right. Just to be clear, like you're gonna have to want it.
Yeah,
but it is right, and it's a very, very, very fine mesh. I mean, it's essentially a coffee filter.
Right, exactly. So if you don't have that, you could use one of these. And if you have our fine mesh strainer, it's a little bit bigger, which is a multitasker. So what you do is if you have one of these little cone filters, you rip it on each end, you drop it in there, and just kind of bring over the edges,
And
and you just pour it right in.
Yeah.
And
this
set it
does
up.
not work with your traditionally sized fine mesh strainers. This is something about our strainer is that we made it a little bit bigger so that you can do this. Obviously, it's certainly not perfect, but as it gets wet, it just sinks right in there, and it's a perfect solution for these sorts of applications. But again, this takes a little bit longer. If you need to go fast, the AeroPress is a great way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you would usually just put this on a glass and then put some pressure on it. I would recommend not using actual glass, maybe a cocktail shaker or something else like that, because the amount of pressure you have to push on this could actually break the glass.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
So yeah, just be careful.
So the good news is it's a bit of workout. Just saying.
Right.
But yeah, the AeroPress, I mean, you use that behind the bar.
I use it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's something we've used for infusions. It's something we used for, you probably use it for fine straining more often than anything else, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it does a really good job of doing that. If you do a hot simple syrup you're gonna do a really light infusion, so maybe like just the aromatics from rosemary. This does a really good job with that because it adds pressure, which helps to accelerate the infusion process, which is really nice.
Have we ever made coffee with it?
Yeah, it didn't turn out as good. Everybody raves about it, but I was like, we're kind of spoiled. I think we have every coffee machine known to man.
I don't want to talk about it. You might think we have a cocktail problem, but really we have a coffee problem.
It just supports our coffee
our
problem.
habit.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have French press, everything. We have everything.
Craft Coffee Club coming soon.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's how I made this. I had a little bit of black pepper in there.
Now, how did you add the pepper? Did you just kind of put it in there and stir? Did you infuse?
So I made the simple syrup. I just kind of fresh ground the pepper right into it and just let it steep, just like tea. The big thing you have to keep in mind with black pepper is the high surface area. It infuses very, very quickly.
So it's ground.
It's ground. This one's fresh ground. So yeah, I would just keep that in mind. One of the other things we were talking about off camera is if you want to have a lot more control over this black pepper note, you can make a tincture. So just a high proof alcohol, add a bunch of black pepper in there and just let it just sit. And then you can add drops at a time and really have much more precision over that black pepper.
Do you still have your black pepper tincture?
Yeah, so when we moved, I boxed it all up. I'm gonna have to bring it out. I made a flavor library. No, we definitely have it. Like 37 different tinctures, which was a lot of fun. Note,
he made it in 2013.
Right.
So these are pretty well infused by this point. I'm going to go ahead and say they're probably ready to use.
They're ready. They're not going to get any deeper in flavor.
No, but the nice thing to Chris's point is you can go one drop at a time and you can be really precise on exactly how much of that black pepper flavor you get.
Yeah.
Now, there is one more trick if you want to sort of like deepen that black pepper note. You can do one more thing, which is to go ahead and actually roast that black pepper in, like, you can do the oven, but usually we just do the frying pan, right?
Right. So just bring up a frying pan to temperature and just add some black pepper to it. And what it's going to do is going to toast it. It's going to release some of those oils, and you'll get this much deeper flavor.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because when you do it fresh ground versus toasted versus whole berry, you get different notes. So it's really interesting to kind of compare them all side by side.
I don't recommend it after you've done the tincture. That would be messy.
And make sure you have a hood because that stuff will like burn you. Yeah. Pepper spray and all, right?
Oh, I guess I never put two and two together. That sounds horrible. So if you try this, don't sue us.
Right, exactly. Well, just have a hood, keep it going, and
don't stick your face in it.
We do this in the restaurant world all the time. Just toasting your spices really brings out a lot of flavor. So enough of the blah blah blah.
I know, right? We should make a cocktail.
Let's make a drink, shall we?
All right.
All right. So this drink is pretty straightforward. Like I said, it's the cocktail family is a sour, kind of a modified sour. So we're going to do 1.5 ounces of bourbon. Then we're going to do 1/2 ounce of this Tingala Buzz Button liqueur. Whoo, spicy. You
can smell it.
Oh man.
When I think of liqueurs, I definitely don't think of that strength.
Yeah, 50%. That's green
high.
chartreuse levels, and it doesn't have the same sweetness that green chartreuse has, so it's pretty intense.
You gotta sneak up on it a little bit. Plus the pepper. I mean, you got a lot. You're adding a lot to your drink. With this. So is that a full ounce of your syrup?
It's a full ounce of syrup, and we're gonna do a full ounce of lemon juice as well. So that's the heart of the cocktail right there. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add an egg white to this just to build some foam. And also it's gonna help calm down some of these intense flavors that we're working with here. So it'll be nice. And usually you want to add about 3/4 of an ounce. And I found that if you just kind of open it up and just kind of scrape it along, that's about 3/4 of an ounce right there. Right there. Perfect.
If you buy the like super jumbo eggs, you may want to measure though. A lot of recipes call for 1 egg white, which I just think is too simplistic because eggs come in a lot of different sizes. So yeah, again, we buy pretty much the same eggs every time, so we know what it is. But if you're not sure, just go ahead and measure. Great.
So this technique is called a dry shake. As you notice, I didn't add any ice to the shaker. It's just a liquid with the egg whites. And I'm going to go ahead and shake. And maybe you could talk about some of the observations you've had.
I will, but I'm going to wait till you're... Well, this is probably...
Nice and quiet.
Nice and quiet. So recently in the industry, in the bar world, I've been hearing a lot of people talking about the reverse dry shake. The dry shake's been around for a long time. What that is what, like Chris said, you shake it once without any ice in it. This is something that, if I'm not mistaken, you only do it with egg whites and egg white alternatives, correct?
Yep.
So egg whites and...
aquafaba.
I could not think of the word, thank you, aquafaba. But what you're seeing nowadays is
soup. There we go.
There you go.
A little pause for the ice there.
I just want to give you some suspense. So the reverse dry shake is where you shake it first with the ice, strain it out, and then shake it again without the ice. Now what we found is that the result is a very different cocktail, or a very different foam, I should say. Well, maybe I should let you shake it first.
Great.
Hold, please. So the dry shake is, again, where you shake it first without ice and again with ice. The result there is going to be what you see here today. It's a beautiful thick foam, and that's why you do the dry shake. It tends to give you a much thicker, more beautiful foam, and so that's why you see that two-step process. Now the reverse dry shake, it does give you I would say more volume of foam, but what we've experienced is that the bubbles themselves are much bigger. So what I would kind of explain it as is that like your dry shake gives you this like, it's almost like a creamsicle. Like you can see this beautiful foam on top of the drink. It's almost like a whipped cream consistency. Now, but your reverse dry shake, you get bigger bubbles and it almost looks more like bubbles, like bubble bath. Not quite that big, but you're not gonna get such a consistent foam on the top of the drink. And what we found is that if you're trying to actually decorate the top, the reverse dry shake, the bubbles are so big that they can disrupt the image that you're trying to create. So that's my experience. I have a preference for the dry shake, not the reverse dry shake, because I just love that like thick foam. I think that's really, really yummy. Again, you don't get quite the volume, but I think it's a worthy trade. Yeah,
absolutely. And the bubbles in this are a lot more consistent, which is really, really fantastic and adds to that creamy nature that you were talking about. So that's pretty much the cocktail right there. Now we're gonna have a little bit of fun with the garnish, and this is where a couple of the techniques that we talked about earlier or hinted at are going to come into play. So one of my favorite things to do with egg white cocktails is to do some stencil work. And typically what you use with that is bitters, like Angostura, Peychaud, something like that. Walnut bitters are really great for stencil work. So I've went ahead and prepped one. You can see it here. How cool is that? It's a little heart. And we're going to just sprinkle the beet powder through this, and it's going to transfer that image right onto the top of the cocktail. So this is super easy to have, to make. We're going to make one right now because it's such a simple shape to make. So
I want to see this process.
So basically, you're just going to get a piece of aluminum foil because, like I said, it's a very simple shape to make. We've made these throughout grade school. We know exactly how to make this. And I'm just going to size it up to about the right size that I want. And just give it a quick cut. And then I'm just going to cut out a heart shape in the aluminum foil.
Is there a reason you're doubling it up?
You'll see.
Oh.
Suspense. So then you have half, you open it up, and there's your heart.
I actually didn't know that. That was not that was not planned.
So now what you do is you just get a piece of double-sided tape, put it on there, one more piece, a small piece.
Now, of course, alternatively, you could just draw your stencil right on the thing you're going to make the stencil out of. But the problem here is that it's hard to find something that'll write on this that's actually food safe.
Right, absolutely.
So if you like just drew on it with a Sharpie, you're going to have Sharpie flavored cocktail, which is not my favorite. Like, I don't judge. Zone, not my favorite.
Probably wouldn't be the first time I had one, to be honest.
In the restaurant industry.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's it. And then basically all you do is take a knife, you cut this out like an X-Acto knife, or I use just a little paring knife that's super sharp, and cut out this pattern, and that's what you get. And I cut out the rim of this. You may actually want to keep a little piece of this rim, and I'll show you why here in a second. It allows you to kind of get a little bit deeper into the cocktail, which just transfers a much more consistent image. But that's pretty much all it is. Now you can get as fancy as you want with this, or as simple. As you see, this took like a minute to make, but it really can elevate your cocktail design. I'll show you.
And you can keep it.
Yeah.
I mean, over time, as you add more stencils, you wash them, you throw them in a box, and then you're gradually going to get a greater catalog of stencils you can use over and over again.
Right, and this is just a to-go food container lid from Indian food.
Yeah, we ordered Indian food, and this is the to-go. This is the to-go. Like, not exactly a classy joint. You've probably already realized that about these Facebook Lives.
That's a little bit sketchy, I'm not going to lie. That looks a little sketchy.
It's endearing. Go with endearing.
So then all you do is just put it right on top. And if you cut it down a little bit smaller than a glass and leave this edge on it, you can use that edge as a handle and get a little bit closer into the cocktail.
The closer you get to the top of the cocktail, the more accurate the sort of rendition of your stencil will be.
Right, absolutely. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this on there.
Do you want me to hold it for you?
No, actually we don't even need to. So what we're going to do is pour this right over.
And again, you want to use the strainer because of those clumps.
Right. All right, so then we just give it a tap like you would if you're sifting flour.
That's beautiful. The red color is really stunning.
There we go. And it just transfers that image right onto the egg whites. And what you end up with is beet powder everywhere, for one.
That's true.
But then you also get this really cool heart image.
I don't know if we're going to be able to show you.
But we'll definitely add it to the comments.
We'll definitely add a photo in the comments. Man, you can't even see it at all. I'm looking at the image.
I'll tilt it a little bit, but I don't think that's going to help because it's kind of like gyroscope effect.
Water level thing.
So that is a really fun way to kind of really amp up the design factor of your cocktail. Now, since it is Valentine's Day and kind of the icon is the arrow through the heart, I'm going to go ahead and make the arrow real quick.
Really?
Yeah, so I just got this flat channel knife. It's not the V-style channel knife that we're all used to seeing. It's a flat one, which is really hard to find. But the thing I love about it, it makes these long, flat strips.
Yeah.
And then all I'm going to do is carve an arrowhead out of this, an arrow itself. So I'll go ahead and do that now. And so just the arrow tip. And it's super easy. You don't have to be very accurate because...
I see. So he's literally he just took the strip of lemon and he's just cutting it into an arrow shape on the end.
Yeah, and you can make this as long as you want because what the benefit of this is you can cut it. We're going to cut it right in the middle to make that arrow, the broken arrow that you always see.
Oh, you're going to do a broken arrow. That's smart.
Yeah.
Broken hearts.
All right.
No pressure.
I know, right? I wish you could see this side. We need like 14 cameras so we can catch all the angles on this.
It's true, it's true.
But I'll show you here what I've done in a second.
The good news is if you do cut yourself, we will have evidence.
Right? Maybe the blooper reel. All right. Perfect. So that's pretty much it right there. As you can see that, just the little arrow.
Again, we'll post some pictures in the comments after the fact.
And one thing I found out, I made this cocktail yesterday, is sometimes you can make it a little too big, the arrow. And it's really simple because we're just going to cut it in the middle to do the arrow piercing the heart. And then we can trim it however we want. So just cut it in half. I'm just going to lay one edge down. Actually, I'm going to trim a little bit off. Maybe too big. So one edge down. Don't drop it like I just did.
We'll show you some photos at the end for sure. I know it's going to be hard to see from here, but
cool.
You'll definitely be able to see that presentation in the photo we show you afterwards.
So it's just a little arrow piercing a heart, and it looks really cool.
And that's part of the benefit of foam. Of course, if we didn't have that egg white foam, we wouldn't have anything to be able to float that on.
Right, absolutely. So yeah, the egg white gives you that platform, which is really fun. So yeah, that's the cocktail. Like I said, a couple of tips kind of sprinkled throughout the episode. Let me see if we forgot anything. Yes, please.
The suspense is killing me. Oh wow, the black pepper comes through beautifully on that.
Yeah, it's really nice flavor.
Yeah. You do still get that really good beet flavor, but it's, like you said, it's kind of counteracted by the tingala, by the black pepper, by the egg whites even. So it becomes this sort of beautiful round flavor. I will say also an additional sort of benefit of having the beet powder is that it gives that additional aroma. So as you take a sip, instead of smelling what is maybe a little bit of an egg white smell, not good, you're getting that, like really, you're getting the citrus from the arrow and you're getting a little bit of that dirt.
Sweet, earthy dirt flavor.
Earthy.
So
that's
good.
the word I've been wanting. Earthy.
So good.
Sounds so much better than dirt. Beet. You're getting that beet smell.
Sweet, dirty earth. Is that like swirty?
Can you tell that we're not in charge of marketing?
Anywho.
My point is, it reinforces the beet flavor in the cocktail, and it's really good.
So thanks for joining us. We made a really, really delicious cocktail. We got the beet powder in there, the Tingala Szechuan peppercorn liqueur, which is so spicy and so good.
Ooh, so tingly.
Yeah.
It's still coming.
Super delayed reaction. Like 2 minutes later, it starts to roll through, and it's pretty cool. Black pepper was in the syrup as well. And bourbon, delicious, delicious sour. So thanks for joining us. If you really like craft cocktails, definitely check out our group on Facebook, Craft Cocktail Club, or go to groups, barabove.com/groups, I believe it is.
That'll take you there.
And if you like cool, fancy bar tools, definitely go check out our store at shop.abarabove.com.
These copper ones are actually pretty new, and I'm kind of digging them. They kind of go with the beet, right?
That's so fancy.
So fancy. Shop.abarabove.com if you like them too. If you can dig it, get it, dig it, beets.
No. Not going to support this at all. But yeah, check out our shop.
Yeah, we're not in charge of marketing.
No, absolutely. Or, scripts. So anyways, yeah, check out the Facebook group. And if you want some bar tools, go to our website, shop.abarabove.com.